Hey everyone, it's your boy OTG197. I'm probably the best Nuzlocker in the world.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And today, I'm heading back to Sinnoh to see if I can complete a hardcore Nuzlocke of Renegade Platinum using only ground types. Now I assume most of you know what a hardcore Nuzlocke is, but in case you don't, here are the main rules we'll be following. Only the first Pokemon encountered in any area can be captured, in this case only ground types. If a Pokemon faints, it is considered dead and can no longer be used in battle. All battles are played on set mode, no menu items can be used in battle, no overleveling gym leaders or the league before challenging them, and if a battle is ever lost, I start over from the beginning. Additional rules in the description. I don't use legendaries, so these will be the Pokemon available to us in this run. You may notice Flygon is missing. It had its ground type replaced with Bug in this ROM hack, so we will not be using it for this run. But anyways, let's see how these ground types can handle a hardcore Nuzlocke of Renegade Platinum. For only the second time on this channel so far, we can actually use a starter, Turtwig, who will become a ground type after it evolves. We can also capture another soon-to-be ground type on the first route and a male Nidoran. After getting to Jubilife with these two, we can get our first member with the ground type in the cave just north of the city. We have a few possibilities here, but we end up finding a Wooper. Now that Wooper will be left to handle things on its own, I train it up against wild Pokemon, which results in it fainting, ending our run before it even really began. Well, next time around, I get another Wooper and... oh, come on. Yeah, Wooper is not so easy to train, it's not very strong, so it takes a while to take out the opponent, has pretty bad bulk, and the worst of it is that it's insanely slow, so it can't reliably run away in dicey situations. It can train well on the ground and rock types in the cave, but if I run into a Zubat, it can't get away and they can destroy it with Absorb. Either way, in Run 3, we instead find a Sandshrew, a much more reliable Pokemon who can breeze through its training with Stab Bulldoze, and then through Rival 2 as we have the TM for Rock Tomb already, so Starly goes down easily to that. Our defense is great, so Munchlax can't do much as it goes down to some Bulldozes, and Chimchar is an easy one-shot with another Bulldoze. Sandshrew fortunately doesn't have to go at it alone for much longer, as we get a large haul of ground types between this battle and the gym. This includes Cubone on Route 203 that I named Badlands, a Diglett in Oreburgh Gate that I named Pinnacles, a Phanpy on Route 207 I named Wrangle, an Onix in Oreburgh Mine that I named Voyagers, and we're also gifted a Mudkip in Oreburgh City that I named Yosemite. Now you may have seen in my last video I started a new thing where the first person to comment the nickname theme in my runs will be featured as my rival in a future video, so if you know what it is, comment below. Anyways, we're now ready for our first gym leader, Rourke, who we have the type advantage against. Our Mudkip evolved to Marshtomp, and I lead him as he handles Nosepass easily. It can't even attack us. Then we get a one-shot on Geodude, and we take a strong Zen Headbutt from Cranidos, but it goes down to a single Bulldoze. A crit from Bonsly takes us to 5 HP as we take it out with 2 Water Pulses. Then Onix comes in and I switch to Sandshrew, who gets off a Bulldoze before I have to switch to Cubone as he heals. We get a crit Bone Club, but then he heals again and we miss our next, so we have to switch this time to Phanpy, who was just barely able to hang on after 3 Bulldozes from Onix and dish 2 back at him for the KO. We bring in our own Onix to deal with his final Pokemon Larvitar, and 2 more Bulldozes take it out. Dicey battle, but no problems so far. 1 badge. On our way to Eterna City, we first have to stop Team Galactic at the Valley Windworks, and I first pick up a Thick Club in Floroma Town from this guy, which will make our Cubone an absolute powerhouse. Against Mars, we lead Sandshrew, who takes out her Zubat and Yanma with a pair of Rock Tombs. I have to switch on her Bronzor, so I go to Marshtomp, who gets off a Water Pulse, but we're put to sleep, so I then go to Cubone, who finishes it off while taking a lot of damage. But our final Pokemon is Purugly, and our Onix is too bulky for it, and easily handles it, even after a crit. Soon after, our Sandshrew evolves into Sandslash, and I also evolve Nidoran, first into Nidorina, then to Nidoking, so it can officially join the team. I held off on doing this until level 24 because this allows it to learn Poison Jab before our next level cap, which can't be done if I were to evolve it any sooner. We then face Cheryl in the forest and have no problem with her, and then before leaving the forest we catch a Nincada who won't be so useful since we can't evolve it, but perhaps its bug typing can be useful for the next gym. We're gonna need all the help we can get with our type disadvantage. I trained the team up on the nearby trainers who pose little threat, with a lot of them having electric and flying types, and I then added Geodude from Mount Coronet to the team, as well as a Swinub on Route 216. I get Gardenia to return to her gym, and we're ready to take her on. I lead with Nidoking, who I'm really gonna have to rely on heavily, but our Poison Jab can't one-shot Blossom even with our held Poison Barb, and we get Stun Spored, which is horrible for us. She heals, and our next Poison Jab takes her out. Then comes in Grotle, and Nincada helps me handle it with some Leech Lives, which is the buffed version, and then it does about half to Cherim before being taken out by Weather Ball. I bring in Swinub, and our Ice Shard can't finish her, but we're very lightweight, so Grass Knot doesn't do a lot to us, and we take it out with another. I'm able to take out Tangela after we get a poison on our Poison Jab, but Nidoking goes down with it, and then the Ace Roserade comes out, and we're able to get off a weak Ice Shard, but its magical leaves clear through the rest of my team with all one-shots. Okay, well that was really rough for us, but I clearly need to put more focus into having a stronger Nidoking. The one I had in this run had a negative attack nature, so the plan moving forward is to make sure I have one with better stats. In the next run, I actually caught a Nidoran female, but it had good stats, so I decided to give it a shot, but I would find out that its weaker offensive stats just won't cut it. Next time around, I don't have a Nincada cause Cheryl killed it. Thanks for that. But I have another Nidoking, and despite having significantly better attacking stats, it's still not enough to one-shot Blossom. We get paralyzed again, and I play it out, but at that point there's just no chance for us. Alright, well, I thought that Nidoking would suffice, but after this battle, I ran some calcs and found that I need to enter the battle with an attack stat of 80 in order to guarantee one-shots on Blossom, Grotle, and Tangela, and a 2-hit KO on the Roserade after its Citrus Berry. In order to accomplish this, I need an Alpha Chad Nidoking, one with a plus attack nature, good IVs in its attack, and hits the gym for those gains in attack EVs, plus gets in that cardio to outspeed the Roserade. When I have the right specimen, I train him up and we're ready to face her again. This time around, just as planned, everything falls to Poison Jab. Also, my bad for turning animations off. I usually like to keep them on, but I was trying to get back here quickly and forgot. Anyways, with this Nidoking, the only thing that can keep us from winning is if we take a crit from Roserade. So in attempt 7 is where I discover I actually don't have to worry about a crit from Roserade because TM Substitute is in the old chateau, and so this time around everything goes according to plan, Nidoking easily sweeps, and I can finally say 2 badges. So you're probably wondering why for several runs I didn't know about Substitute. I mean, I used it in my Ice and Dark type runs against Gardenia, and that's because this ground run was actually my first run of this game, so I didn't know a lot about the game yet. It's a long story, but basically the way I used to record my runs created video files that weren't compatible with Premiere Pro, so I had to re-record all of the footage before I could start editing. This was the case for a couple of my other early runs, and it wasn't very fun, so when it came time to edit this run, I instead decided to just do the Ice and Dark runs first, cause the footage for those runs was good and ready to go. That's a very watered down version of the issue. This legitimately delayed me from starting this channel for over a year, but yeah, there's my long-winded explanation and a little bit of background on my woes of getting this channel started. Now that it's going, I am so glad to be where we are. Anyways, we take down the Galactic Hideout no problem, and then we get 2 of our best encounters of the run, starting with Gligar outside of Wayward Cave, which we can guarantee with a repel strategy, and then Gabite as a static encounter inside the cave. I find a metal coat so I can evolve Onyx into Steelix, and then the battle with Mira is quite easy, but while escorting her through the cave, we can train easily cause she spawns double encounters, so with the EXP share, I get Grotle to level 32, where it evolves into Torterra, letting him join in on the action. I then have to face Lucas for the first time, and Steelix begins the battle taking Piloswine to its sash, but then he switches to Prinplup, and I go to Torterra who takes it out with a Seed Bomb. Piloswine comes back in and Lucas heals it, but Steelix can easily take it out with Gyro Ball and Iron Tail, and then does the same to Granbull. Lastly, the Lickilicky is a bit annoying, making me switch around, but it can't do much to Torterra, who finishes it off. Before we can face our third gym, we have a fight with Aaron, who is a notorious run ender. Steelix easily handles the lead Dustox and then brings Beautifly to its sash, allowing me to switch to Sandslash and Outspeed thanks to the previous Rock Tomb and take it out with another. Venomoth comes in and puts us to sleep, and I try switching to Gligar, but its tinted lens lets its Bug Buzz do massive damage, so I go to Nidoking, who takes a devastating Psychic, but lives and takes it down with 2 digs. Scizor is one of his scariest Pokemon, and I switch to Marowak on a Bullet Punch and hit a Bone Meringue for over half as he sets up Swords Dance. Another will take me out, and here I basically have to choose who to sacrifice, and I switch Sandslash in to take the fall. RIP. This lets me bring in Torterra, who can finish it with an Earthquake, and then another doesn't one-shot the bulky Drapion as he sets up another Swords Dance, but we can live its X-Scissor. Torterra's Shell Armor prevents the crit chance, and another Earthquake gets us the win. I guess this is where I realized I forgot to catch Shellos earlier, so I get one and evolve it to Gastrodon, and so now I'm ready for the third gym leader, Fantina. Against her Drifblim, I lead Marowak, who can't quite one-shot with Knockoff as she sets up Calm Mind, then heals and hits us with a strong Shadow Ball, but another Knockoff gets the KO, and then comes Spiritomb, who takes a lot from our Bonerang and brings us to red HP with another Shadow Ball, but I can take it out next turn with Knockoff. Gengar comes in and it's hard to switch into, but Gastrodon can live 2 Shadow Balls and gets off a Scald as it burns us with Will-O-Wisp. I then switch to Torterra, who also takes a Shadow Ball and Will-O-Wisp, getting off a bite that just barely doesn't KO. I bring in Nidoking, who takes a Sludge Bomb and Shadow Ball, but finishes it with Shadow Claw. However, Mismagius corners me with no good switch-ins, it outspeeds, and our Nidoking goes down to a Shadow Ball. RIP. I bring in Steelix and she sets up a Calm Mind as we thankfully land Iron Tail, which is super effective because Mismagius was given Fairy type in this game and it one-shots her. Dusclops comes in and is insanely annoying, spamming Protect and then Pain Split when we get it to low health. It burns us with Will-O-Wisp, so we can't take it out with Steelix, and I instead have Gligar finish the job. Her last Pokemon is Banette, and our Feint Attack is not doing a lot, and it hits a crit Shadow Claw to take out Gligar. I think Gastrodon can take one, but it can't, also going down to Shadow Claw. Torterra is my last ditch effort, but Crunch can't finish it due to the burn. She heals Banette and takes out Torterra, and then our other 2 have no chance, so that's a reset. Well, next time around, I come in with a new strategy. I lead Nidoking and start by hitting Drifblim with Rock Tomb as we take a Shadow Ball and then finish it with Shadow Claw. The Rock Tomb was to prevent it from going into range of using its berry and then outspeeding us from Unburden. Mismagius comes in, not seeing a kill, so it sets up Calm Mind and we can one-shot it with an Expert Belt boosted Shadow Claw. Against Spiritomb, I set up a layer of Toxic Spikes as we're burnt from a Will-O-Wisp, and I set up a second layer before switching to Gastrodon, who damages it heavily with Scald and even scores a burn. I switch to Torterra and start by missing a Leech Seed, but I then land one as she heals. A bite flinches her, and then a Seed Bomb finishes Spiritomb off. Dusclops comes in, getting poisoned, and I hit a Leech Seed on it as we take a Will-O-Wisp, but our Roust Berry heals the burn, prompting it to Will-O-Wisp again as we hit a strong Crunch. The point of this was to prevent it from Will-O-Wisping as I switched to Marowak, and then go behind a substitute before taking it out with Knockoff. I'm safe from Gengar behind my sub, and a Knockoff easily one-shots it. We're now down to her Banette again, but this time it's poisoned, and our Steelix at full health can easily come in to tank its hits and finish it off. A good bounce back after an ugly loss the first go around. 3 badges. Next order of business is the rival fight, and it's quite easy. Steelix makes light work of Staravia, Nidoking one-shots Monferno with Dig, Snorlax goes down to a pair of Brick Breaks from Nidoking and Marowak, and then after a curse, his Heracross's Brick Break does laughable damage to Steelix, and it goes down to a Gyro Ball and Bulldoze. Then, me and my rival Cold team up to take on Team Galactic, and you know, I've actually teamed with the person I named the rival after before, and I'm pretty used to carrying him in real life, so let's see if that's the case here as well. Okay, he got a kill. Stole it from me, but whatever. Alright, gets another, and then takes these Drain Punches for me as I clean up Toxicroak and Espeon, and this frees me up to close out on the Raichu. Alright. Pretty good job, Cold, but you better not let me down at Spear Pillar. Moving on, Marshtomp evolves into Swampert, and we find a Razorfang letting us evolve Gligar into Gliscor, which is one of the most stupidly broken Pokemon in this game, and I will explain why later when we have its full set. We take down these Ace Trainers. These guys are always kind of scary, but we make it to Veilstone with no problems. And then we get access to Earthquake TMs from Bertha in the department store, which is obviously going on everyone's moveset immediately. In the Maniac's Tunnel, I can catch a Hippopotas, giving us our Sandsetter, and on the route outside, I can catch a Numel who, is gonna give it his all. Anyways, it's now time for us to face the 4th gym leader, Maylene. I lead off with Sandslash, who is still with us in this run. I slow down her Medicham with a Bulldoze as we take a hard high jump kick and then finish it with Shadow Claw. Toxicroak comes in and I bring in Nidoking on its Drain Punch, and an Earthquake one-shots it easily. Then comes in Gallade and I switch to Gliscor, who takes its Zen Headbutts easily, and it sets up a Reflect, making our wing attacks unable to take it out easily, so I choose to stall out the Reflect turns with Roost before taking it out when the Reflect will end. Machamp comes in, but it's not very threatening and goes down to a wing attack, and then we take Infernip's Fire Punch but get burnt so our Earthquake won't one-shot it, forcing me to switch to Marowak, who finishes the job. Her last Pokemon is Lucario, and I switch to Swampert hoping for a Flash Cannon, but it goes for Aura Sphere, which does a huge chunk to Swampert on the switch, but we can live another, hit a Bulldoze to slow it down while breaking its Focus Sash, and then outspeed on the next turn to take it out with another. First decisive gym victory in a while for us. 4 badges. After fighting Maylene is usually where I EV train my entire team with the NPC in Solaceon Town, and then on the way to Pastoria City I can add a Nidorina and a Barboach to the team, and in the Great Marsh we can catch a Quagsire, who is an extremely important encounter for the next gym, but before facing Wake I have to take on our rival in his first battle with a full team. I lead with Steelix against a Raptor, and we take it out with a pair of Iron Heads as we take 2 close combats, and I usually like having battle animations on because I think it looks nicer for the videos, so I'm kind of annoyed because this is like the 3rd important battle I had them off in this run. This is a mistake from this being one of my first runs, but I'll be sure to correct it moving forward. Anyways, Infernip goes down to Hippowdon's Earthquake and then Azumarill to Torterra's Seed Bomb. On Heracross I bring in Gliscor, and now is a good time to talk about Gliscor. So in this game, it was given access to the ability Poison Heal, and it was given Fly, which was buffed to be 100 power, 100 accuracy. So what you're able to do with this is pre-poison Gliscor before a battle, have it hold leftovers, and it now can't be statused, heals 18.75% of its health every turn, and with Fly you can attack with a 100 base power stab move while healing at 37.5% of your health, which is just insane. You also have Roost to heal 69% of your health in 1 turn, U-turn for utility and momentum, and Earthquake as another 100 base power stab move to spam. Needless to say, I had a fun time using Gliscor in this run, and she cleans up the battle against Cold for us here, so now we're on to the 5th gym leader, Wake. So we have a type disadvantage here, but I have an ace in the hole. First things first, I use Hippowdon to get rid of the rain for our sand, and I then switch to our own Quagsire, who is immune to the Aqua Tail thanks to Water Absorb. I then head into Torterra, who one-shots it with a Seed Bomb. Gyarados comes in and I bring in Quagsire again and he takes Ice Fang easily, but we get frozen, which is really annoying because now it has a good chance to set up on us. I switch to Steelix as he begins setting up and our Thunder Fang only does about half due to its Wakan Berry. I switch back to Quagsire and fail to thaw from the freeze for 2 turns as he continues setting up Dragon Dances, and then the sand damage brings him into range for Wake to use a Hyper Potion, and we finally thaw out and hit a Toxic, but at this point Gyarados is at +4 and extremely terrifying. The one thing I can use to my advantage though is that the AI won't go for an Aqua Tail against Quagsire since it's already seen it has Water Absorb, so I use this opportunity to switch in Hippowdon as he Dragon Dances again, hoping to bait an Aqua Tail on the switch back to Quagsire, but he goes for Ice Fang, which even at +6 only does a bit over half, and then I switch to Steelix, who can easily take another Ice Fang as the poison damage finally finishes off Gyarados. Phew, that could have been really bad. Anyways, on Poliwrath, I switch to Swampert, who gets put to sleep from Hypnosis. I then bring in Quagsire on a Waterfall, which heals us back to high health, but we're also put to sleep. I switch between these two again until Quagsire wakes up and hits an Earthquake, but is then put back to sleep. Still, Poliwrath isn't doing much damage to me, so I stay in until I wake up again and take it out with another Earthquake. Ludicolo comes in and its Energy Ball does about half to Nidoking on the switch, but we get an easy one-shot with Poison Jab, and then I have Quagsire come in on Floatzel, who can't do much damage since it can't use its stab move, and it goes down to Toxic and Earthquake. Last is Sharpedo, and we took a defense drop from Floatzel's Crunch, and I don't want to take a Crunch from Sharpedo, so I switch in Swampert, then pivot to Hippowdon, who takes a hard Waterfall, but this will bait another, so I send in Quagsire for the heal, and with the sand damage, Earthquake takes it out. The unexpected freeze made that pretty scary for a second, but we adapted to the adversity. 5 badges. Getting past the water type gym unscathed as ground types has the team's morale pretty high, and we can look forward to having a type advantage in our next gym fight against Byron. However, there are a lot of challenges for us to face before getting to him. I've always considered this part of the game to be a long-term gauntlet where the fights aren't back to back to back, but there are a lot of significant battles before the 6th gym. First is our second fight against Lucas, who I leave Marowak against, and we hang on after a hard Energy Ball from Alakazam and one-shot it with Knockoff. Then comes Mamoswine, and I switch to Swampert and get off an Aqua Tail, which does little damage because of its Peugeot Berry, and after one Earthquake from it, we have to switch, so I bring in Gliscor to avoid Earthquake, and then U-turn for chip damage into Steelix on the Avalanche, and an Iron Head finishes it off. Flareon comes in, and I have Gliscor come in on its Flare Blitz and then one shot with Earthquake. And then on Empoleon, I don't have any safe switches, but I assume Nidoking can at least take one Surf, and he just barely hangs on and then takes it out with another Earthquake. Lickilicky is easy to handle with Torterra thanks to Leech Seed, and with our great defensive bulk, we can easily take 2 Play Roughs from Gramble and end the battle with 2 more Earthquakes. We then have to help out in Celestic Town against Team Galactic and have our first battle with Cyrus, though this fight is very easy. He only has a team of 4 and we really have no issues handling it, so we're now headed to Pal Park with Quagsire's Water Absorb, making the trainers on the water routes trivial, and on our way there, the team gets a massive upgrade as our Gabite can finally reach level 48 and evolve into Garchomp, one of the strongest Pokemon in the entire game. We then arrive and have to face Simp Boy over here, and his Gallade in our past runs has been scary, but this time it just goes down to Gliscor's Fly, and then Empoleon comes in, but we have Quagsire to handle its water moves and take it out with 2 Earth Powers. Alakazam comes in, threatening an Energy Ball, but I have Garchomp take it well, and then we're able to hang on after a Dazzling Gleam and take it out with Earthquake. Phew, I'm risking my best Pokemon to a crit on its debut battle. Not very good on my part, but anyways, we then face his own pseudo-legendary in Metagross, and I switch Swampert in on a Hammer Arm, which shocks me by doing over half, so I switch to Torterra, who takes it better, but then to my surprise our Earthquake doesn't take it out. Still, we can live a Zen Headbutt and finish it with another. Entei comes in and uses Sacred Fire, and here we can demonstrate how good Poison Heal is on Gliscor, as we can switch in with no risk of the 50% burn chance, and we end the turn taking 15 damage. It takes 2 Earthquakes to finish it, but then his final Pokemon is Staraptor, who hits a strong Brave Bird as we go for a fly, healing back most of the damage, and we need 2 more flies to take it out after he heals, but we live the incoming Brave Birds and get by with no problem. After defeating him, we can make our way into Candice where our 5th rival battle awaits us, and I have Steelix lead off and set up Stealth Rock, and then Gliscor handles Staraptor with 1 fly after the defense drops from close combat. I U-turn out on a Azumarill into Swampert who can't one-shot with Earthquake, and we can't take another hit, so I switch to Nidoking on a Play Rough and we get the KO thanks to our Poison Point ability. I bring Garchomp in on Snorlax, who tries setting up curses, but its defense raises can't keep up with our attack raises from Swords Dance, and a few Earthquakes take it out. Okay, from here forward, I'm just gonna call Earthquake EQ, because I'm gonna have to say it like a million times in this video. Anyways, at +4, Garchomp cleans up the rest of this battle, and then we have to face Riley outside of Iron Island. I have Steelix set the rocks again and take out Absol with some EQs, and then Gliscor comes in, taking massive damage from a crit high jump kick, but takes out Lucario with another EQ of its own. I pivot to Swampert on his Metagross, and it lives my EQ, and now we have to switch, so I go to Nidoking as he heals, and he gets off an EQ, but gets one shot by 1 from Metagross. RIP. Garchomp comes in to clean up, and then I'm able to handle Salamence with Gliscor thanks to my healing, and the funny interaction of him setting up Dragon Dances to outspeed me, but now his fly goes before mine, so his misses and mine takes him out. I switch around on Ursaring, but ultimately bring Gliscor back in to do the job, and then we have a similar situation as before with Slacking, as I can use Fly to avoid his attacks, and then freely get damage as he loafs, finishing the battle and our gauntlet. We unfortunately lost Nidoking, but we don't take any more casualties running Team Galactic out of Iron Island, and we're then ready to take on the Candice City gym leader, Byron. So not only do we have the type advantage this time around, but Byron has notoriously been one of the easiest gym leaders in my past runs, and the reason is because he leads with this Bronzong, which just absolutely sucks. It's so easy to set up on, and here I go behind a substitute with Torterra, which it can't break with its only attacking move Gyro Ball, and after setting up multiple curses, it runs out of them before being able to break my sub, and it's a slow process, but we take it out with Leech Seed. From there, we have our sub broken by Magnezone, but against Steelix, we just put it back up, and his entire remaining team are physical attackers, so at +6 defense, they can't do anything to us, and at +6 attack, they all go down easily to EQs. I'm genuinely curious if Byron will ever be difficult in one of these runs. That Bronzong is just so easy to cheese. 6 badges. We quickly deal with Team Galactic at the lakes. Our team is really powerful at this point and they aren't too difficult. But then we can immediately head for the gym at Snow Point City, where this time around we will have the type disadvantage against Candice. I finally evolve our Swinub into Mamoswine to step up to the occasion with its resistance to ice thanks to its thick fat ability. However, we first have to take down the temple guards and... Haha, very funny guys, but we're not here to screw around, okay? So this tends to be a pretty scary battle. Okay, knock it off guys, we need to get serious. We have an ice type gym coming up and... Alright, which one of you was it? I can make you death fodder if I really want to. So this is a pretty scary battle, but I lead Gliscor and Garchomp, who handle their lead Heracross and Blissey well, as Heracross goes down to Fly, and Blissey lives in EQ, but gives us a chance to set up a free Swords Dance by healing on the next turn, and then Garchomp's EQ can go crazy as we take her and Tyranitar out, and then do a bunch of damage to Feraligatr before we're forced to switch because the Meganium is a part Fairy type, so I have Gliscor bring it to low health before pivoting Garchomp back in, who can then finish the battle with another EQ. That was actually trickier than I expected it to be, but now we have access to the temple where I have to do these ice puzzles, which I'm terrible at, but we make our way to Candice, and turns out it was Regigigas making those tremors earlier. Oh. Sorry guys, let's go get that gym badge now. Yeah. Even the gym trainers here are kinda tricky, but I bring all my best ice type counters, and against Candice I lead with Hippowdon to first get rid of her hail and set up stealth rocks as we take a nasty blizzard we just barely live. I bring in Camerupt, who is annoyingly crit by Ice Shard and then goes down to a Wood Hammer, but this lets me bring in Steelix, who takes a blizzard decently and finishes her lead with an Iron Head. Against Walrein, I bring in Gastrodon and we're hit with a Surf and Blizzard, and then annoyingly miss our Toxic, so I just attack, and it looks like we'll have a 2-hit KO, but she then switches to Froslass as I recover to full health. She misses a Blizzard as I land a Scald and get the burn, and then she just uses Attract and is taken out from the sand. Glaceon comes in and I hit a Toxic even after its double team, and then after a Scald it's taken out by the sand and poison damage before it can do anything. Walrein comes back in and hits a Yawn, but goes down to our Earth Power, and then I hit a Toxic on Weavile as it sets up Swords Dance and we fall asleep. We take an Icicle Crash, but another will take us out, and I think Steelix has the bulk to take an attack at +2, even though he's already damaged, and he takes the Crunch solidly, but now he also has to switch, so I bring in Swampert. He can live another Crunch, and the residual damage finishes off Weavile. Her last member is Mamoswine, and thankfully on the switch to my own, she goes for Avalanche, which does little damage, and we then exchange some EQs, with us coming out on top after 2 and ending the battle. We had a loss, but I will definitely take this result. 7 badges. So I think me and my ground types are ready to get off this mountain and go Earthquake our way to our 8th gym badge against Volkner, but first we have to go to Lake Acuity and see that Cold got his ass beat by the Galactic Commander. Man, just like the real world, Cold stays taking L's he shouldn't be taking. Anyways, of course, we now have to go and handle Team Galactic once and for all. First, by taking down their hideout, where the main battle to focus on is against Cyrus, this time with a full team. Against his Crobat, I can set up Stealth Rocks and have Steelix hit it with an Iron Head, but he then switches to Houndoom on another, and I bring in Garchomp to handle it, which then prompts in Weavile, so I go back to Steelix, who takes little damage from Ice Shard and Crunch, and one-shots with an Iron Head. Against Honchkrow, I bring in Mamoswine, who one-shots it with Icicle Crash, then Magnezone is the freest kill imaginable with an EQ, and Crobat, being damaged already, goes down easily to Ice Shard. Cyrus seems pretty easy for our ground types, and Garchomp just Swords Dances and sweeps Saturn, so now our chase continues to Spear Pillar, where on the way I catch a Donphin, since I got Rhyhorn instead of Phanpy as my Route 215 encounter earlier, and as previously mentioned, I have to team up with Cold to take on the admins, who he's already lost to, so I'm really gonna need you to step it up here, bro. My Mamoswine takes a Brave Bird that hurts quite a bit, but Cold Staraptor picks up a KO on it with his own Brave Bird, and we miss our Icicle Crash after the other double teams. I like to stay in an Earthquake as it will solo target Electivire, but Cold instead takes it out with another Brave Bird. Okay, not bad. Against Bronzong, I bring in Gliscor as the left admin switches to Tangrowth, Cold U-turns out to Infernape, and we have Stealth Rocks set up on our side. Cold takes out Bronzong with Flare Blitz as I go for a fly on Tangrowth, and before I can come down, he gets another KO on Yanmega with Stone Edge. I hit my fly, and then he finishes Tangrowth with another Flare Blitz, and then close combats the Perugly for a one-shot. Okay, note to self, if my starter choice doesn't matter, let the rival have Infernape. I U-turn out on Gastrodon to have Swampert take its Ice Beam, and Cold nearly one-shots Kangaskhan with a close combat before his Infernape goes down, and I finish it with a Waterfall. Cold's Breloom finishes the Gastrodon, and then a combination of his Rock Tomb and my Ice Punch takes out Crobat, and then Bronzong with his Force Palm and my Waterfall. Sableye KO's Breloom, but his Azumarill comes in and takes it out with Play Rough. Skuntank's Gungshot one-hit KO's Azu, but after my EQ, his Staraptor comes in for the finish with Brave Bird. All in all, we got through one of the toughest fights pretty easily, and I gotta admit, Cold did pretty damn good. We're not done yet though, and since I beat Cyrus's ass last time, he summons Dialga and Palkia to help him out this time around, and that Palkia is extremely scary for us. First, I have to get through the Distortion World puzzle, and you'd think with how many times I've done this, I'd be better at it by now, but I still get lost all the time. But we make our way to the end, and of course we have to deal with the double battle against the level 70 legendaries. I lead off with Steelix and Torterra, and the goal is to have them double target Steelix, so I start off with a Protect on him as they both target him, and I land a Leech Seed on Palkia. I then switch to Quagsire, who takes a mild Aura Sphere and soaks up Palkia's Hydro Pump as I seed Dialga with Torterra. Quagsire then takes massive damage from a crit Earth Power, and I Protect on Torterra to avoid Palkia's Hydro Pump as Quagsire hits it with a Toxic. This time, Palkia targets Quagsire as he protects, and Torterra takes massive damage from a Roar of Time, but survives. It heals back lots of damage from the seeds after hitting Palkia with a Seed Bomb. I bring in Mamoswine for Quagsire, knowing Dialga has to recharge and Palkia won't target that spot with a water move. Instead it goes for Torterra, who dodges with Protect, and Palkia goes down to seed damage, leaving only Dialga, so I bring in Steelix on Aura Sphere, which it lives, and I then hit the double Protect, then switch to Gliscor, who avoids an Earth Power, and Seed Bomb plus Leech Seed damage finishes off Dialga, getting us by those two with no problems. They're always scary to deal with, but now we still have to deal with Cyrus's main team. He leads Crobat, and I again have Steelix set up Stealth Rock and then take it out with Iron Heads. Houndoom comes in, and Garchomp takes the Flamethrower, and it goes down to our EQ. Then Weavile comes in, same as last time, and Steelix takes Icicle Crash and Feint Attack with no problem, and it goes down to Iron Head. This time around he has Gyarados, which is kinda scary. I have Torterra take an Aqua Tail on the switch, and then we can just barely live Ice Fang to get off a Leech Seed, and I then go to Quagsire, hit the Toxic, and after a few Protects it goes down. Gliscor can come in to take Honchkro's Brave Birds, stalling it out for recoil damage, and then finishing it with Fly, and then the Magnezone is back to eat another Earthquake to finish the battle. Yeah, you probably should have left Magnezone in the box, Cyrus. And well, thinking of how awful of a trainer Cyrus is, I thought about how awful it would be to be one of Cyrus's Pokemon. Like, he literally stays here in the Distortion world, forcing them to be stuck here with him. Like, that's so messed up, he could at least let them go. Whatever. Now my only concern is to get our final gym badge and close out this run. So I head to Sunny Shore, but I'm stopped by this guy. I always forget to go talk to Professor Road first to make this dude get the hell out of the way. So we do that, and now we're facing... In my script I wrote Faulkner, but this is actually Volkner. And one might think we would just Earthquake till we win, and that's mostly true, but he does have two Rotom forms who we can't do that to. I have Garchomp handle Rotom Heat, Steelix takes out Luxray after I misclick Iron Head at first, and then Torterra takes out Rotom Wash with Seed Bomb, so we can go back to spamming EQ now, as Swampert takes some strong moves from Electivire but hangs on, and Raichu knows Surf, but it can't take out our Gliscor, who finishes the battle. I will say, for ground vs electric, that wasn't that easy, but we're moving on. 8 badges. Normally, I do a full analysis of the fight against Dahlia, but this time I'm gonna make it brief. It was tricky, Dusknoir and Medicham had to be stalled out, we just barely scraped by against Blaziken, and Ludicolo and Togekiss were a pain in the ass, and at one point my team looked like this, but Garchomp was able to clutch up at the end with a well-timed crit on Zapdos. Now, moving on to Victory Road. By this point, I've typically figured out the team I want to use for the league, and so as a precautionary measure, I usually try to get through as much of Victory Road as I can with the members I don't plan to use for the league. Victory Road is possibly the hardest gauntlet in this game, and since that means I will be using my weaker team members, this is a section where I typically take lots of casualties, and in this case, my death count racks up extremely quickly. First, losing Whiscash and Golem, followed by Nidoqueen, Gastrodon, and Sandslash all in one battle. I then try to catch a Burmy to use Wormadam, who I hadn't even bothered catching yet, but then it evolved into Mothim, and I don't really know why, and I don't really care, so I was just like, alright, screw that, not using Wormadam. Marowak, Rhyperior, Dugtrio, and Donphin join in on the effort, with Donphin going down. Marowak narrowly survives because this guy uses Aura Sphere for some reason when he has Surf, but then soon after, Dugtrio goes down. At this point, I'm so desperate for a Surf user and don't want to compromise Swampert or Garchomp, so I use the infamous Surf Rhyperior, and I actually get a KO on this guy's Aerodactyl with it just for the meme, and we make it all the way past Marley to the end of Victory Road with no more deaths. But in our final battle against Lucas, we unfortunately have to say goodbye to our beloved friends, the Surfing Rhyperior and Marowak. The rest of the team is able to close out the battle, taking us to the league, but now being all the way down to 7 members. Much respect to all the brave soldiers who took the fall in order to get us there. We salute you. Now, let's get this thing done. Before the league, the rival is a bit of a thorn in our side, with Azumarill causing a bunch of problems for us, but we thankfully get by him with no more deaths, and so now, it's league time. To start off against Aaron, I get his Yanmega led team, and I lead Hippowdon, who can get off a Stealth Rock to cripple his team. If you don't know, in this game each member has 4 different teams that they choose at random, and honestly, this is not a bad draw for us at all. I pivot around a bit, ultimately having Mamoswine take out Yanmega with Ice Shard, and then Garchomp is heavily damaged by Scizor, but takes it out after an EQ and rough skin damage. Heracross is the least of our worries when we have a Gliscor, and Swampert handles our Malto with a Waterfall. Stealth Rock makes Vespiquen start at half health, so he uses Heal Order on my switch to Mamoswine, who one-shots it with Rock Climb, which is a rock move in this game. His last is Drapion, and our Earthquake easily one-shots it, getting us by Aaron. Against Bertha, I get a Tyranitar-led team. Now, she has 2 of these, so there's no way to indicate yet which team I'm against, but I have Hippowdon set Stealth Rock and then bring in Gliscor to finish it. Her Mamoswine comes in and I have Swampert deal with it, but then she switches to Quagsire, I guess to predict my Waterfall, but I actually switched to Mamoswine, but that's not really good for me either, so I switch to Torterra and take it out with Seed Bomb. Her Mamoswine comes back in, but does little damage to ours as we switch it in and finish hers with an EQ, and then one-shot her Torterra with Icicle Crash and her Dugtrio with Ice Shard. Her last Pokemon Rhyperior comes in, it has a Choice Band and locks itself into Stone Edge as I switch to Torterra, who takes it out with Seed Bomb, so we're moving on to Flint. Fire types shouldn't be too bad for us, and getting rid of his Sun with Hippowdon will help a lot as we also set up Stealth Rocks, which will heavily damage his whole team. In the Sandstorm, his Solar Beam is weak, so Mamoswine tanks it and takes out Ninetales. Against Flareon, I want Garchomp to come in and just sweep, but its Flare Blitz annoyingly burns us, so now that's off the table, and then it nearly takes out Gliscor, taking us down to 3 HP. God damn, Flareon is way too strong. Thankfully, we can get rid of it on the next turn with an EQ. Swampert comes in on Rapidash easily and one-shots it, and then Houndoom will have to charge a Solar Beam, so I just stay in and one-shot it with another EQ. Infernape comes in, and here I make the mistake of not bothering to look at its moveset, and honestly, I deserve to lose Swampert to this Grass Knot, but I'm never punished. In fact, Swampert's plus special defense nature probably saved its life here from my bad play. Phew. Magmortar then makes it tough for us to escape from here with no deaths. His Fire Blast will 2-shot Hippowdon, so I switch to Garchomp, and here I have to depend on scoring the KO even with the burn, and we're able to take it out with an Earthquake, barely scraping by with no deaths, in a battle that I did not expect to be the hardest one so far. But now, we've got the last Elite Four member, Lucian, and I set up Sand and Stealth Rocks to start while also poisoning Mr. Mime before finishing him with Gliscor. Metagross comes in and I U-turn to Swampert, who takes a Meteor Mash well, but then we take an annoying flinch from Zen Headbutt and I have to switch to Torterra and we get off an Earthquake, but it does hardly anything as Mr. Mime's Reflect is still up. I go to Garchomp, who takes a lot from Meteor Mash, but we can get the KO with the Reflect now gone. Man, only 2 down and we're already struggling. Against Espeon, I bring in Gliscor, who can take its Psychic just barely and heal up with Roost plus Poison Heal and Leftovers and take Espeon out with a Fly and the Sand damage. No one can switch in easily on Alakazam, and we took Espeon's Psychic from this range, so I bank on us living Alakazams, and we do at only 3 HP, letting us get out of there with U-turn into Mamoswine, who finishes it with 2 Ice Shards after he heals. Whew, my heart rate had to have been through the roof with these close calls. Alright, only 2 more Pokemon to go, and Bronzong is thankfully not super threatening, but the problem is my only healthy Pokemon are Hippowdon and Mamoswine. The former can't even attack it with its Levitate, making it immune to our Earthquake, and only having Toxic as my other form of damage, and the latter is weak to its Steel-type attacks and won't beat it in a 1v1, so I do the only thing I can really think to do, and stall. Now, one thing I can exploit here is that it runs dual screens, so when the screens go down, I can predict it to use them again, letting me switch safely to Torterra, who can get off a Leech Seed that I can bring back into Hippowdon to give myself a win condition against it. He has leftovers and uses a full restore, so this takes an extremely long time, but eventually it goes down, and I managed to heal up Torterra in the process and get up several curses, so his last Pokemon Gallade is no problem and goes down to 1 Seed Bomb. This is definitely the most stress Lucian has ever given me, seeing as how I had Weavile in my other runs. Turns out he is no pushover, but we're moving on to Champion Cynthia. We get her Togekiss led team, and Hippowdon does his usual with Sand plus Stealth Rocks, while also poisoning the Togekiss that Gliscor then finishes off. My Milotic comes in, and I U-turn into Swampert, who hits it hard with a +1 Earthquake after a curse. She heals up, but Swampert is able to take her out with an EQ and Waterfall. Next is Glaceon, and I bring in Mamoswine, my best ice counter, to tank its Blizzard and get a one-shot with Rock Climb. Lucario isn't much of a threat thanks to Gliscor, who one-shots with EQ, and Spiritomb isn't very threatening, but with a full restore and rest, it stalls me out of Earthquake PP, so I U-turn to Garchomp and get up a Swords Dance, then take it out. Now the goal was to sweep, but with her Garchomp being 3 levels higher, I'm worried I may not outspeed, so I switch to Hippowdon as she locks herself into Outrage. We take 2 and hit a Toxic, then switch to Gliscor, who takes a crit living at 13 HP. Goddamn, Gliscor has been next to death so many times and just keeps living. I told y'all, this Pokemon is so hard to kill in this game. Anyways, Torterra comes in on Stone Edge, I hit a Leech Seed as Garchomp hits itself in confusion, and then I curse at Cynthia just to really stick it to her, and Garchomp goes down, making us the champion. You all know by now that this is not where the story ends. We of course will be taking on the post game, including the league rematch, so let's head on over to the battle resort. The first thing we have to do when we get there is take on a double battle with our rival against Flint and Volkner, which has surprisingly never given me much trouble, even though it seems like a tough fight. Well, in this case, against a fire and electric trainer, we can just spam Earthquake and win. Pretty simple, and then we have to take on Heather, the first of 6 post-game gym leaders, and a flying type specialist. She leads Pelipper, who sets up Rain, but I lead Hippowdon to get rid of it. We take a nasty Hydro Pump and are able to put up Stealth Rocks. I switch in Swampert on Ice Beam, and then we chip her down with some Ice Punches, and I switch to Garchomp expecting Hydro Pump, but she heals, and I really want to get rid of this thing, and I know her Ice Beam isn't the strongest, so I trust we'll live it and set up Swords Dance. We live it, no freeze or crit, and take it out on the next turn with Dragon Claw. Honestly, really sloppy play on my part, and I need to lock in because the run is still far from over. Togekiss goes down to +2 Iron Head, and then Dragonite to Dragon Claw. Against Tropius, it lives Dragon Claw and gets off a super effective Dragon Pulse, but then goes down to the sand. And then Aerodactyl is faster and can finish us off, so I switch to Gliscor to take 2 of its banded Brave Birds and U-turn out to Mamoswine, who can just Ice Shard to victory. She actually switches to Pidgeot, but it's not going to do much, and a few Ice Shards take it out after she heals, and then we finish off Aerodactyl for the win. Moving on, I realize I don't have a Surf user anymore, so I begrudgingly teach it to Swampert so we can take on Wyver, the Dragon Trainer. He leads Kingdra and I lead Torterra, who it never attacks. It sets up Dragon Dances, but after Leech Seed and a Curse, I can take it out with an Earthquake. Flygon comes in, and I mentioned before, it's a bug type in this game, and so I switch to Hippowdon on the Bug Buzz, and then go to Swampert, who eats 2 Draco Meteors down to 40 HP and can get off an Ice Punch. By the way, Flygon has a base 130 special attack in this game, so these Dracos are no joke, but I can now go into Gliscor, who finishes it with a Fly, and then I U-turn out on Dragonite into Mamoswine, who takes a hard Outrage, but can take it out with Ice Shard. his Garchomp comes in and locks itself into Earthquake as I switch to Torterra, who can set up Leech Seed to mitigate the damage and take it to low health before switching to Gliscor as the Leech Seed takes it out. Salamence comes in and I U-turn into Hippowdon as he sets up Dragon Dance, and here I'm in a tough spot. I start switching around as he locks himself into Outrage, and I'm able to take one with Gliscor, then Torterra and Hippowdon, but none of them can take two, so I have to switch around until it becomes confused. Desperately hoping it will hit itself, I switch to Mamoswine, but it breaks through confusion, but goes for Aerial Ace, which we can live, and we can then take it out with an Ice Shard. Oh my god, I'm honestly so bad at this game, but it doesn't matter because I'm even luckier. His last Pokemon is Altaria. Garchomp takes a pretty weak Dragon Claw from it and takes it out with a Choice Banded Iron Head, getting us out of there with no deaths by the skin of our teeth. I played the first two gym leaders so poorly, and I really need to do better. Thankfully for us, those two are the hardest of the gym leaders, and the others tend to be pretty easy from my experiences so far. We face the fairy leader Luna next, and our Mamoswine takes out her Wigglytuff with Icicle Crash and EQ after taking a crit Moonblast. Then I whittle down her Azumarill with Swampert before switching to Torterra and finishing it with Seed Bomb. Against Gramble, I have Hippowdon set up Stealth Rocks, and I want to take it out, but we're put to sleep by Lovely Kiss, which I really didn't think this thing got, but okay. I go to Steelix, who is also put to sleep, but tanks its moves easily and eventually wakes up to knock it out with Iron Head. Clefable is annoying and stalls me for a bit with Reflect and Soft Boiled, but Gliscor is able to outlast that and take it out, as well as Gardevoir with help from Stealth Rocks and Sand. Mawile is her last Pokemon, and I U-turn out to Steelix, who takes its moves easily. She tries to Swords Dance, but our EQ one-shots, getting us the Moon Badge. Against Jean, the normal trainer, I get up my Stealth Rocks and Sand as Stantler locks itself into Double Edge, letting Torterra get up Leech Seed and a Curse as he heals, but then I actually decide to get the kill with Gliscor. Against Bibarel, I U-turn back into Torterra and take it out with Seed Bomb, and then head back to Gliscor on Dodrio, taking a Brave Bird, but I take it out with a Fly, and in the process go from under half health to full health. God, this thing is so broken. I U-turn into Mamoswine, who takes a weak Ice Beam from Porygon Z, and then I finish it with an Earthquake, followed by a one-shot on Girafarig, and against the final Snorlax, I bring in Torterra, who gets into a stalemate with it, setting up curses against each other, but thanks to our Leech Seed and the Sand damage, we're able to outlast it, getting us the General Badge. We then face Shade, the Dark Trainer, and after Hippowdon puts up rocks, Garchomp takes out Houndoom, and then Swampert takes some hits from Weavile and finishes it with Earthquake. I pivot to Torterra, then Gliscor on Shiftry, who goes down to our U-turn, as I go into Garchomp, who proceeds to clean up with a series of one-shots on Sharpedo, Spiritomb, and Tyranitar with its Choice Banded Earthquakes. In this desert area, I can actually catch a Pokemon I haven't used yet, which is a Claydol. I then proceed to take on the final gym leader, Scythe and her poison types. Hippowdon sets up rocks per usual, and then I take some hard hits switching around on Gengar, but eventually take it out with Gliscor. I send Torterra straight into Tentacruel's Ice Beam, which seems dumb, but this was actually intentional. See, I knew it wouldn't kill, and it can't crit Torterra because of Shell Armor, and I wanted to guarantee it would go for Ice Beam as I switched to Mamoswine instead of going for Muddy Water. We do take one of those, but our Earthquake one-shots it, and then I bring in Gliscor to handle the Toxicroak easily, as well as Vileplume, Nidoqueen, and Crobat, getting us the last post-game gym badge. We face Buck, who is really easy. His full defensive team can waste our time, but it's just not all that threatening with its lack of offense. And then we have a final run-in with Team Galactic, who also don't present much of an issue for us. Claydol makes its debut and actually puts in a lot of work, getting us through Stark Mountain, but unfortunately in the trainer rematches, he goes down, as does Steelix. RIP to them both. We have a few more close calls in these fights, but get by with no more casualties, and so now with our final 6 team members, we're ready to take on the league once more and finish this run. Against Aaron, Hippowdon, Stealth Rock, yada yada, Garchomp uses Dragon Claw on Mega, and then I finish it with Mamoswine's Ice Shards. Gliscor easily handles Scizor, being able to heal back most of the damage it inflicts on us, and the same is true against our Maldo. And then Heracross is the easiest mismatch of our life for us, with Drapion and Scyther also being incredibly free, getting us by Aaron easily, mostly at the hands, or claws, of Gliscor. Against Bertha, it's Hippowdon versus Hippowdon, with us both getting up Stealth Rocks, but I also hit her with a Toxic. Now this is a bit of an exploit in this fight, as with her Hippowdon being toxic, I put her AI in a spot where it wants to just spam Slack Off, and she eventually will full restore, so I take the opportunity to get up several curses with Torterra before taking her out with Seed Bomb, which also gives us an easy one-shot on Swampert, Tyranitar, Dugtrio, and Rhyperior. And then her final Pokemon is her own Gliscor, who is annoying with Double Team and Sandveil, but I eventually land a Seed Bomb to take it out and keep us trucking forward. Feeling good so far, and here we have a type advantage against Flint, and we know exactly what team we will be facing this time, so per usual, Hippowdon provides the sand and rocks for us, and then takes out his lead Ninetales. Houndoom comes in, and it's gonna want to Solar Beam, but it'll take 2 turns and be weakened in the sand, so I just bring in Garchomp to set up Swords Dance, and proceed to destroy everything with EQs, except Moltres, who goes down to Dragon Claw. Easy peasy. However, last time Lucian wasn't so easy peasy for us, and this time he again proves to be the toughest Elite Four member for us. Against his lead Mr. Mime, Hippowdon does its sand and rocks, but also hits a Toxic and EQ before I switch to Gliscor, as he switches straight to Latios on the same turn. I switch to Swampert as it locks itself into Choice Specs Ice Beam, and I'm not able to take it out with 2 Ice Punches as Reflect from Mr. Mime is still active. I go to Mamoswine and annoyingly miss an Icicle Crash, but it's fine because its Ice Beam does little damage and the next will take it out, but he switches to Metagross, who takes our Icicle Crash easily. Well, our Earthquake takes it out, and then he brings in Gallade, but Gliscor can come in to handle it with no problem. Latios comes back in and again locks itself into Ice Beam, so I go to Mamoswine, and I don't want any misses, so I take it out with 2 Ice Shards. Lucian then sends out Espeon, and I go to Garchomp, who takes Psychic exceptionally well in one-shots with EQ, and then can also take out Mr. Mime in 2 hits after Lucian heals it. His last is Alakazam, and its Psychic fails to take us out, and it's extremely frail, so an Earthquake one-shots it, and so with that, we've got only 1 battle left. It's time for Cynthia. This time, she's guaranteed to lead Spiritomb, and I get up my sand and rocks as she sets up Calm Minds, and I hit it with a Toxic, and it fails to attack us before I finish it with a few Earthquakes after she wastes one of her full restores. Pretty good so far, however Milotic is one of her scariest Pokemon for us. I bring in Swampert against it, and I'm hoping to avoid Scald Burns as long as I can, but its second one burns us and our EQ does little damage, but the Milotic runs an odd Flame Orb set, which is to boost its defenses with Marvel Scale, but it honestly kinda just reduces its longevity, especially with our sand doing damage as well. Either way, she switches to Togekiss, and I bring in Mamoswine against it to KO with Icicle Crash. We have a very easy counter to her Lucario in Gliscor, and we take it out with 1 EQ. Then Milotic comes back in, and I bring in Swampert, but it's not going to last very long, so I send in Hippowdon, who takes a Scald that also burns it. And here is where I ultimately decide to send Swampert back out as a sacrifice, and he goes down after an Ice Beam and the burn damage. RIP. This lets me bring in Mamoswine, who can finish off Milotic with Earthquake, and then her Rayquaza has its sash broken by the rocks, so an Ice Shard takes it out, and another Ice Shard one-shots her final Pokemon, Garchomp, and so we are done here. That is a hardcore Nuzlocke of Renegade Platinum completed using only ground types. Thanks so much for watching. I want to apologize for this video taking so long to release since my last main series run. I struggled a lot with motivation to work on videos in the last couple months, and unfortunately I'm not in a position yet where YouTube can be my main priority. However, moving forward, I really want to be more consistent and efficient with releasing my videos, so I hope you all enjoyed this one, and thanks so much for sticking around. Remember to like and sub to help your boy out, and before I go, I want to announce I am starting a Discord channel, so if you want to come by and hang out with me and other fellow Nuzlocke enjoyers, there will be an invite link in the description, and I'll also be making a community post with an invite. I hope I can interact with some of y'all there. Well, that does it for me. I'll see y'all in my next run. Peace.